Thank you for being with us today. I hope everyone had a safe holiday yesterday. I know we couldn't celebrate in the traditional way, but I hope you still had fun and took the time to remember those who have served us. This is our first town hall via Zoom. It gives people a chance to not just hear, but also to see us. As you know, I'm Anthony Randoni, your 63rd Assembly District Representative in Sacramento, as well as Speaker of the Assembly. With me on Zoom tonight, I have Cynthia Cortez, who will be giving our presentation tonight about the census on behalf of the Southeast Collaborative. After her presentation, I'll announce 3 winners of our Opportunity Drive. Again, I want to thank you for being here because of how important the census is to our communities. We only get this chance once every 10 years, and to stand up and be counted, and every person counts, no matter what your age or religion, job, or immigration status. We need this information to guarantee that you are well represented in government, but also to make sure that the funds are there for things that you care about. Those things include safe streets, enough teachers for schools, good access to healthcare services, childcare, and more. This is going to be especially important because of the COVID pandemic that we're going through. Right now, most of the cities in my district have about a 50% response rate. We need much more. But the stay-at-home order has made that hard. That's why we've done census mailers and participated in the census caravan to let people know in some of our most critical areas that we care enough to come out and encourage them to be counted. My district staff has also worked hard to get the message out. Now we are hoping you will be involved, going to the hard to count areas, making sure the large youth population in our community is counted. It will take you, the trusted members of our community, to make the difference and explain why it is so important. I think that Cynthia can explain everything in as much detail as you need. She is the Associate Director of the SELA Collaborative, working with Dr. Wilma Franco. The Collaborative has been the organization in our community working the hardest to make sure that the census is successful here. They have spent a lot of time going to churches, clubs, and other local organizations to make sure that the information is available to people in the places they know well. I will turn it over to her now, but first I will remind you to stick around for your announcement of winners after her presentation. Cynthia?
Thank you, Speaker, for the introduction. And hello, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I enjoy talking about the census, connecting with everybody to talk about why it's important, why we need to complete it and be counted, and really thinking about how do we serve as those people, or as trusted messengers in our community, to encourage those that haven't been able to respond to complete the census. So for those of you who may not know what the census is, I'm going to share a little bit about what it is and what it means for our communities, then talk to you about a lot of the outreach effort that's been made from so many different people to make sure that you and I and your family members and your neighbors all get counted in this very important campaign. So the census is something that occurs every 10 years. It is led by our federal government because we want to find out how many people live here, how many people live in this neighborhood, or how many people live in this city, how many people live in this state, regardless of immigration status, independent of age. It's really just an understanding of who lives in our community. So when you think about logging online and saying, how many people live in the city of LA, or the city of Long Beach, or the city of Maywood, Vernon, Cudahy, and so on and so forth, sometimes we get curious to say, that's how many people live here. And it's really connected back to the census. So we need to know this information because the census is connected to a lot of the resources that Speaker Rendon mentioned, but also it's important to bring the resources that keep our community vibrant. And one thing I like to do is compare it to planning for a party. So let's say you're planning for a gathering with your family and friends, and you ask them to say, hey, let me know if you're going to attend, because you want to plan on having enough food to feed the people that are coming to your party. And let's say you have 10 people say, yes, I'll be there, and it's the day of your event, and you have maybe 20 people show up. What happens in our communities is that we don't say we're only going to feed 10 people. We find a way to make it work because we love so deeply and we care so deeply. But if we have the opportunity to make sure that we can feed all 20, how do we make sure that we share this information so that we plan and distribute the resources accordingly? I invite that comparison to making sure that the federal government knows how many people live in our communities so that our schools, our healthcare system, our transportation, and other vital resources are well funded. So I'm here to highlight a couple of things around the census that we've learned in doing outreach. One, I never get tired of reminding our community members that the census is absolutely safe. Your data is protected by many federal laws to remain private. And also, I want to highlight that there is no citizenship question on the questionnaire itself. It's really looking at age, gender, race, ethnicity, and other demographic variables to help us understand who lives in our community. And it is critically important because, again, going back to this idea of depending on how many people live here, we get the federal allocations for those monies and funding and resources to come our way, as well as political power. And it truly takes a very vast partnership between many of us to ensure that all of our members in our communities get counted. So I want to share a little bit about the work that we've done with the CELA Collaborative in regards to census outreach. About 2 years ago, we were able to host a charla, and this meant that we invited different members of our community to come together and talk about the census and what were some of your concerns and what was some of the insight we needed to do effective outreach come 2020. And we also learned that in our region, we have a lot of hard to count communities. This means communities such as the 0 through 5 population. We know that our children also need to get counted as part of the census because over the course of 10 years, they're going to be 10 years old and they're going to go to childcare centers and utilize the school system. I want to make sure that they have the adequate resources to have a good experience. Another consideration with hard to count would be our renter community. So we've learned in these dialogues that if you're a renter, sometimes you may not know that we are responsible for completing the census for our household. Maybe we have the idea that, oh, it's the person that owns the property that has to fill it out. Also, our renter communities need to be counted. And another example I want to use is our limited English speaking population. The census is available in 13 different languages because it's important that all of us, regardless of our ability to speak English, get counted in this important campaign. All of these variables, and in addition to other factors that make our communities hard to count, has inspired a widespread of different people and different organizations to come together and plan how do we make sure the Southeast gets counted. So if you think about your local nonprofit, a church faith-based organization, small businesses, your cities and elected offices have been coming together regularly to talk about what can we do to ensure every nook and cranny and neighborhood gets counted, and how do we share the importance of the census, and how do we activate everybody that is able to hear this message to reach out and turn, say, hey, I went to that one webinar, I went to that one training, or I was on that one phone call, and you return to your family member or a loved one or your neighbor to express, hey, did you complete the census? Let me talk to us why we need to be counted. There are diverse tactics that we've employed. It varies from the mailers. You may have received a mailer, you may have seen a banner in your city, or if you're logging into social media, a reminder that says census is still happening, make sure you're counted. Or it can be through phone and text banking. A lot of our organizations and cities have reached out to their constituents through phone banks and text banks to remind them that the census is still very much active. We need you to participate and get counted because we all want to make sure that we receive the resources we need. And also, if you've been perhaps walking or driving or traveling through your neighborhood, you'll see some of your schools that have the banners up on the fences that say Census 2020 is here. You may see a banner on a main roadway, a residential or business roadway that has Census 2020 on it. And this is a result of a lot of different people talking and coming together, fully aware that if we're going to get counted, it takes that partnership between the outreach that we're able to do and you, the person that hears and receives and maybe is still on the fence about, well, what is the census or how do I complete it? And that's some of the work that we're continuing to do well into May, well into June, because we want to encourage everybody to self-respond. So to share a little bit about where we're at, we know that the response period opened up in March. And from March until now, I can share that at the national level, about 60% of our community members or households have responded to the census. In the state of California, it's about 61.3%, and in LA County, we hover around 56.5. So what this lets me know is a couple of things. One, I can definitely celebrate how many families and leaders and community members have completed their census to date. And I want to say thank you for that, because without that initiative, it makes it very difficult to keep momentum, especially as part of the group that's doing the outreach in the community. That also lets me understand that for whatever reason it may be, there are still members in our communities that haven't been counted. And of course that makes me worried, because I want everybody to be counted and everybody to be visible. So what does it mean to look to you and look for that partnership? And that becomes very important. So I want to share a couple of slides to kind of highlight what I have here today. So if you give me 1 second for that. Couple of slides here. Here we go. All right, is that visible? Can I get some feedback that my tech is working? Yeah, maybe. I hope it's working. So I want to share how you can help with this broader campaign. So one, there are 3 ways you can respond to the census. I think something just came in. Does that work? Yes, it works. Beautiful. There are 3 ways that you can participate in Census 2020. And the 3 ways are: you can respond online. I shared the website here with you because if you're able to have access to the internet, or you feel a little bit tech savvy, this might be the right avenue for you to complete the census form and make sure that everybody in your household gets counted. Perhaps you feel most comfortable responding by phone, and that's totally okay too. So that you have the opportunity to call this number and make sure everybody in your household gets counted here as well. Our third option is also available, particularly now that for households that have not had the opportunity to respond to this date, paper forms have been mailed to you. So if you're feeling more comfortable with the paper form coming through the mail, just remember to make sure that you count everybody that lives in your household. There is paid postage connected to that form, and mail it back to the U.S. Census Bureau. So these 3 different ways are the different ways we continue to share out through our community. For us, it doesn't matter which way you choose to respond. The most important piece is that you are responding and that everybody that lives in your household is being counted. So when we look at these response rates, we see them continue to climb and move in the direction of as close to 100 as we can get. And as I engage with different people, I also like to remind that being counted is an act of love for our community. If we love the vibrancy of our community and we want to make sure that our schools and our infrastructure and our healthcare system receive the funding that it needs, especially now that we understand how vital these resources are during a time like COVID-19, how do we take that time to not only learn this information, not only complete and make sure that we get counted, but also reach out to the other members of our community who we know have not yet had the opportunity to get counted? So I have an invitation for you. So I want to emphasize that every single person needs to be counted, whether you're a newborn, whether you're a senior citizen, or anybody in between. Every single person needs to be counted, regardless of your immigration status, regardless of what city you live in. Every single person in the United States needs to be counted. And we need resources for everyone. By being counted, it lets the federal government know and understand how many resources should be allocated to our communities and the state of California, and also make sure that we have the right political representation to speak to the issues that matter to us the most. So here's my invitation to you. As we think about a lot of the work that our nonprofit organizations have done as part of the We Count LA campaign, and the U.S. Census Bureau has done, and ensuring we partner up and speak to each other and identify creative ways to get the word out there and everybody counted, can you help take us home? Can you think about somebody perhaps that you know that may have not completed the census? Can you share about the 3 ways that they can use to respond to the census, whether it's paper, online, or over the phone? Can you share the message of the census is connected to our resources? Can you highlight that fact that the census is safe? And some practices to consider could be, maybe you send a text message out You're sitting down, you're reflecting, you know what, I'm gonna do my civic duty and send this text message out there. Or you can reshare. Perhaps you're following your favorite city, your assembly member, and you see the census information. Can you reshare that into your network? And at the end of the day, can we celebrate that despite the hardships we're experiencing collectively with COVID-19, we're still rising up and doing our civic duty to make sure that we get counted. So that's my information here for you today, to really emphasize that there's a lot of work that's been done. There's a lot of love that's been poured in to make sure that everybody gets counted. And we need that partnership with you. So I extend that love to you, and hopefully we can continue to see these response rates go up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Really appreciate that. It was very, very helpful. I'm sure we all learned a lot. Before we get to the winners, I want to answer an important question that was sent in by a constituent who's chosen to be a census enumerator. She was wondering why she had not yet been contacted to start work. The answer is, like so much that we're dealing with, the answer is relates to the COVID pandemic and how it's affected the census and how it's affected the way the census is being rolled out. The Los Angeles area is still waiting for the ability to send people out. So the Los Angeles Census office is still waiting for the ability to send people out. So please sit tight on that. That's a very, very important role. We want to make sure that you serve in that function. At this time, she and other people in that situation should continue to keep checking their census jobs profile and keep an eye out for email from the area office telling you the next step. So thanks for that question. It was a good one. I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone for being part of this. And we're now going to announce our three winners. Our three winners are Francesca Bartes, B-A-R-T-E-S, Ana Gutierrez, and Luz Laguna. So Francesca Bartes, Ana Gutierrez, and Luz Laguna are three winners. My district field representative will be reaching out to you, to all three of you, to get you your gifts. That's the end of our first Zoom town hall. I think it was a really good and productive one, but it's of course not the end of our census efforts. We have more time to work on this, and we will keep going to make sure that everyone is counted. If you have more questions about census participation, don't forget, you can always contact my district office or the SALA Collaborative for more information. Thank you very much. Good night.